Ashley Ann Olsen was 35 years old, a bright, artistic woman who had left the noise of Florida behind for the calm beauty of Florence, Italy. She wasn't a celebrity, nor was she trying to be. She was just someone searching for peace, love, and inspiration, like so many women who move abroad hoping to start over. Her life was gentle, rhythmic, almost cinematic. She walked her small dog, Scout, through cobblestone streets every morning, greeting cafe owners who knew her by name. She worked part-time as an event organizer and photographer, capturing the old-world charm of the city that had captured her heart. Ashley was known for her kindness. She helped new expats settle in, guided tourists lost in the narrow alleys, and often said, "Greater than Florence makes me feel alive again." But behind that smile, her friends sensed loneliness. Her relationship with her Italian boyfriend, Federico, had been turbulent, full of passion, but also distance and arguments. On January 8, 2016, she was seen at a nightclub, alone, calm, and maybe just a little sad. She spoke to a few friends, danced for a while, and left sometime around 4 a.m. No one knew that this would be the last time anyone would see Ashley alive. The morning light of January 9th broke softly over Florence, filtering through the city's Renaissance rooftops. Ashley's friends began texting her. No replies. Her dog, Scout, hadn't been walked. That wasn't like her. By evening, concern turned to panic. When her friends arrived at her apartment and used the spare key, the world seemed to freeze. Ashley was found lying lifeless in her bedroom. There were marks on her neck, signs of strangulation. The room was eerily quiet. Her phone was missing. Her dog sat by her side, trembling. In that silence, one question echoed through every mind. Who had she let into her home that night? Florence, usually a city of love and art, suddenly felt colder. The news spread quickly. American woman found dead in her apartment. For locals, it was shocking. For tourists, it was terrifying. But for her family back in Florida, it was unthinkable. A father who adored his daughter. A mother who still expected her morning message. Ashley was more than a headline. She was a dreamer who opened her door to the wrong stranger. In the hours before her death, Ashley's night seemed ordinary. The kind of night a woman in her 30s might spend trying to forget a broken relationship. At the nightclub, Monte Carlo, she chatted with a few friends but seemed distant. Security footage later revealed a man, dark jacket, confident, watching her from across the bar. He approached. They spoke briefly. Around 4 a.m., the two left together. That man was Idrissa Silla, a 27-year-old from Senegal. He was known to police for minor drug offenses, but had no record of violence. Witnesses described him as charming, the kind of person who could easily gain someone's trust. Ashley's friends later said she was too trusting. She often invited people over for an after-party or a late conversation about art and travel. That night, she brought Idrissa home. What happened next would become a chilling reminder that sometimes danger wears a friendly face. When police reconstructed the timeline, they found CCTV footage of Ashley and Idrissa walking toward her apartment. She looked relaxed. Inside, they had drinks. At some point, things turned dark. Forensic reports would later show that Ashley was strangled to death. There were no defensive wounds, meaning she likely didn't expect violence. It was sudden, intimate, personal. The killer stayed long enough to take her phone, perhaps to erase evidence or contact traces. Then he left, closing the door behind him as if nothing had happened. The next morning, life in Florence continued as usual. Tourists clicked photos of the Duomo. Couples shared espresso in sunlit cafes, unaware that a horrific crime had just taken place in a small apartment nearby. When the news broke, it rattled the city's soul. How could something so brutal happen in such beauty? Police immediately began searching for anyone who had seen Ashley that night. The footage from the club became the first lead. The man with the dark jacket, walking beside her. Her father flew from Florida to Italy, pleading for answers. She loved this city. She trusted people too much. "I just want to know what happened to my daughter." As detectives traced phone records, they found the man's identity, Idrissa Silla. Within days, he was arrested. When questioned, Silla admitted to being with Ashley that night. But his version was different. He claimed it was consensual intimacy gone wrong. The autopsy told another story. Clear evidence of force and asphyxiation. The more investigators dug, the clearer it became. Ashley didn't open her door to a lover. She opened it to a stranger whose darkness she couldn't see. Her story echoed around the world, a warning whispered in every woman's heart. Trust can be fatal. Florence police knew this case would be under a microscope. An American woman murdered in Italy. The media was relentless, and international headlines were already calling it the Amanda Knox case all over again. Detectives were careful this time, methodical, precise, every movement documented. Ashley's apartment became a forensic battlefield. DNA samples, fingerprints, fibers, every inch of the home was examined under blue forensic light. And there it was, the crucial evidence. A used condom, cigarette butts, and skin cells that didn't belong to Ashley. The DNA matched one man, Idrissa Silla. But investigators needed more than DNA. They needed motive, intent, truth. When interrogated, Idrissa claimed he and Ashley had a consensual encounter that turned physical. He said she had asked for rough play and that he panicked when she suddenly went still. It was a defense built on manipulation, the oldest kind, shifting blame to the victim. But forensic psychology told a different story. The marks on her neck were not accidental. The pressure was deliberate, consistent, lasting more than 30 seconds, enough to show rage, not panic. There were no signs of a fight because she had trusted him. Police traced his phone records. They showed he had searched for her on Instagram before the night they met. He had followed her silently online for days. It wasn't random. It was targeted. For prosecutors, that changed everything. This wasn't a tragic accident. It was premeditated contact, a calculated act by a man who knew exactly what he wanted. Meanwhile, Florence's expat community was shaken. Women who once walked home through moonlit streets now looked over their shoulders. Every door felt heavier, every stranger more dangerous. Ashley's father, Walter Olsen, stayed in Florence for weeks. He attended every court hearing, sitting silently, holding his daughter's bracelet in his hand. He told reporters she didn't deserve to die for being kind. She didn't deserve this. In a city known for romance and art, her story had become a symbol of violated trust, a warning that beauty can sometimes hide horror. When the trial began, Silla's defense tried to portray him as misunderstood, as if he were the victim of cultural differences and passion gone wrong. But the evidence was clear. His DNA, his lies, his online stalking, his calmness after the act. The jury deliberated for hours. Finally, the verdict came guilty. He was sentenced to 30 years in prison. Ashley's father wept quietly. Justice, in a way, was done, but closure was a different story. Because nothing could bring back the woman who had once said, "Florence makes me feel alive again." The trial had ended, but the story didn't fade away. Florence tried to move on, yet something in the city's heartbeat had changed. The street where Ashley lived became a silent memorial. Flowers on her doorstep, a photo of her smiling beside her dog. Locals and tourists stopped to whisper a prayer, to stare at the apartment window where her light once shone. Ashley's father eventually returned home to Florida, carrying a small box of her belongings, her sketchbook, camera, and the collar from her dog scout. In an interview later, he said, "People always think these things happen to someone else. But no one is truly safe when kindness is mistaken for imitation. Those words echoed far beyond Italy. Her story sparked global conversations about women's safety, about boundaries, and the dangers of trusting too soon in unfamiliar places. She wasn't the first woman to open her door to a stranger, but she became a symbol of how fragile trust can be. In Florence, expats started safety groups, WhatsApp circles, where women checked in after nights out. Local bars introduced new security measures. Posters began to appear around the city, written in both Italian and English. Tell someone where you're going. Share your location. Your life is not worth the risk of politeness. Ashley's dog, Scout, was adopted by one of her closest friends. He often sat by the door, waiting, as if he still believed she would walk in. That image, the loyal pet waiting for the woman who would never return, haunted those who knew her. Years later, documentaries were made. Journalists revisited the case, and true crime podcasts whispered her name again. Not to sensationalize, but to remember. Because Ashley wasn't defined by how she died, but by how she lived, open, kind, trusting. And that, tragically, was what made her vulnerable. When the case closed, the presiding judge said something powerful. Violence against women is not a crime of passion. It is a crime of control, of taking life to feel power. Those words still hang heavy in courtrooms today. Her father established a small foundation in her name, the Ashley Olsen Project, focused on helping women abroad connect safely, learn self-defense, and trust their intuition. He said, if even one woman listens to her gut because of Ashley's story, then her death won't be in vain. Florence, the city she loved, eventually honored her memory with a small mural, painted on the wall near the Arno River. It shows her walking her dog, the sun rising behind her. Below it, in quiet lettering, it says, "Be kind, but be careful." Her story became more than tragedy. It became a mirror. For every woman who's ever hesitated before opening the door. For every father who worries when his daughter travels alone. For every stranger who means well, and for everyone who doesn't. She opened the door to the wrong stranger is not just about one night. It's about how a single choice, a moment of trust, can alter everything. Ashley's death was cruel, but her memory continues to whisper a simple truth. Kindness should never cost your safety. She opened her door to the wrong stranger, but her story can still open eyes. Share this video. Help her voice echo beyond Florence. Subscribe to the channel for more real stories that should never be forgotten.